up and away, and we good. It is on, but why is it starting at 31 minutes? It's not blinking, though. Weird. It's done that before. It was not, I assure you it wasn't live. It just, this part's live. So now I'm talking to you, Jason, and everyone's looking at me. Here we go. Facebook, we got one notification. Can we get two? Can we get two? Am I framed up? If you're watching this and seeing me right now, thanks for joining the live streaming studio audience taping of the expert. I almost said the Brown Report. That'd be cool for you, huh? Expert Authority Effect interviews on iTunes. I have my great VIP guest. He's smiling over here in the green room, and I'm going to be bringing him up in just a second. But I wanted to let you know, because you're going to be tuning in. We're going to take some Q&A at the end. He's all excited. He's a live streaming pro also. I'm excited to have him on here. We're just spooling this up right now. I'm checking a few things, and we're going to jump right on into it, and I'm having a great day. I am not choking on tonight's episode. That is fantastic, at least for me. You probably lost some entertainment value, but the good news is I'm back to keep doing this. So my business page is live. Why isn't this on my personal page, though? Oh, look at that. Look at that. It is live there. Cool, cool, cool. What's that? What was it? I think it was, I was going to say, what was that movie? But it was actually an episode of The Office when Andy comes back from on the boat trip and everything, and he just lost a sail, and he's like, say, are we Coolio? He's like, Dwight's like, I'm not going to say it. But then eventually he does, even though they lost the sail. But my point with all that is we are Coolio. I'm going to leave this. Looks like we're broadcasting live and stable here from, I want to make a joke. Hey, Sterling, how are ya? I was going to make a joke and say live from such and such stadium, but I have a feeling if I name anything, then it's going to get, let's say, a little bit more fun than I want it to, at least for today. So I was going to say, are we cool? But I already said we're Coolio, so we're going to jump right on into it. I need that little clapboard. If anyone knows where I can get one of them things, yeah, you got it. Steve, Nick, from the Chicago shoot we did with the company in Chicago. I know you said there's marble clapboards. Let me know where I can get one. I do want to. That'd be entertaining, even if it's just for me. All right, what's going on? Cool. Welcome to another exciting episode of Expert Authority Effect interviews. I am excited to share with you Jason Brown, stock market coach and trading's entrepreneur. He is the CEO of a great course that will teach you how to do it for real. He's very impressive, and we're going to bring him back up. We're going to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Brown. Jason, how you doing today?
What's going on, Mario? Glad to be here, man.
I am excited to showcase you. I know you've been up to some big things, and I can't wait to dive in with you. So what was the inspiration behind stock market trading, and how did you get into it?
You know, the inspiration behind stock market trading is really just the power of having your money work for you. And so I always heard about people big building wealth, and typically when you think about people building wealth, you hear about two different industries, right? You hear about real estate and you hear about the stock market. And so for me, money making money was just always fascinating to me. It's like, how do they make this work? That's where a lot of people create their wealth. And so that initially piqued my interest. And so when I looked at how do I get involved, I always thought you need to have a whole bunch of money. And so if you want, I could tell the story about how I got started. If you want to
Absolutely.
go
Go
there.
for it, please.
So, again, I was young and I was always intrigued by the fact that money can make money for you. And so what really introduced me to the stock market at first was all I knew about was mutual funds. And so I took about $2,000, about 18, 19 years old, get your graduation gifts and all that stuff. And instead of blowing that money, I actually opened a mutual fund. So when I went to the bank to open a mutual fund, the lady literally asked me two questions. She was like, "So what's your objective?" And I was like, "To be rich." Like, why does anyone ever open one of these things? Like, that's what I was thinking, right? Like, what else is there to do to be wealthy, right? And she said, "So you want aggressive funds, right?" So literally, those are the only two questions she asked me. And I said, "Sure, I'm a young guy. I think aggressive sounds good. I need some aggressive growth in my life." And so I invested with the mutual fund with that bank. I think it was Bank One, NBD, then it was Bank. They were bought out by Chase eventually. And basically, I came back 2 years later. So I'm like 21 at this time, 2021. And I'm like, all right, how's my investments doing? And it went from 2000 down to $700. And so I was like, I could have lost my own 1700, $1,300 or so. And so that it was at that point that I realized it was the best $1,300 I ever lost, because had they made me money, I would have always thought they know more than me. I got to take it to the professionals. This is why you come and give it to them. But because they actually lost me money, that was really when I realized, oh, they're human just like me. They can lose money. And so I realized they didn't know much more than I knew. I mean, of course, they went to school for it, where they were licensed, but that didn't matter to me. You lost my money. I could have lost my own money. And so I took 700 out. I spent $200 to like make myself feel better. I probably bought some shoes or something, but I took that $500. And at the time I was working for Sprint PCS. And at the time our stock was $5 a share when I worked at Sprint. And so I made $8 an hour. It was just $64 on the Saturday of working for a full day. And after they took taxes out, I made about $50. And so Mario and everyone listening, I was just thinking, if I can make $50 from the stock market, I wouldn't have to work Saturdays. Young kid, I'm like, if I could not work Saturdays, this would be great and still make the same amount of money. And so I took the $500. I bought 100 shares of Sprint PCS stock at $5, right? Makes sense. I'm like, all I needed to do is move 50 cents. I wasn't greedy. I didn't need it to move $10 or go to the moon. I just need to move 50 cents. And when I bought at 5, it fell down to $4. And I was like, I knew this doesn't work. What was I thinking? I could do this on my own. And then the stock went back up to $5. So I'm like, yes, I'm about to break even. Now I just need to go to 550. I'll make $50. Simple enough. And so what happened was it fell back down to $4. And I'm like, is somebody playing tricks on me? Right. You feel like, okay, is somebody watching me? Like, okay, he's in, send it back down. And so it went down to 4. When it went back up to 5, I just had this epiphany, this vision. I was like, I'm going to get out at 5 because I believe it's going to fall back down to 4. I'll buy in at 4 and then I'll get out at 5 and I'll make $100. When I did that, it literally changed my life. So instead of making 50, I made 100. But here's the magical part. If you draw that out like on a piece of paper, and it looks like this, if the stock's going from 4 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 4, it looks like a snake pattern. But in the stock market, that's called a channeling stock. I didn't know that was a real pattern or a thing. And so then I started to realize, or at least ask myself, what other patterns out there exist that I don't know about? And so that's when I started studying the patterns, and I realized there's 3 most common patterns. But once you can learn these patterns, I'm thinking, why didn't they teach this in school? And so once I learned how to spot these patterns, I realize it's kind of like the weatherman is how I like to explain it, because some people may be listening or watching this and thinking, is it that easy that you can read patterns and make money? And I like to explain it like the weatherman, okay? The weatherman looks at a radar and he looks at patterns, clouds. He says, according to this, I believe there's a 70% chance it's going to rain. And that's how it is with the stock market, right? Can the weatherman be wrong? Could he say it's going to rain at 5 o'clock, but 5 o'clock comes, they're like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It doesn't rain, right? Or it rains at 9 o'clock instead of 5 o'clock, right? Or it rains the next day instead of the day he said. But more often than not, when he looks at that pattern, he's going to be 70, 80% correct. And that's what I found with the stock market. It's not 100% accurate just by learning how to read these patterns, but more often than not, you're going to be right 60, 70, 80% of the time. These patterns will do what you believe they're going to do. And I was fascinated by that. And literally, I just dove head first into learning these patterns and putting my money to work in the stock market.
That is fantastic. I started my first company when I was super young, also, and I was going to make a joke when you were saying it, and you realized it was five, it went to four, then it went back up to five. How many years of schooling did you need to figure that out?
Zero, right? It was just common sense.
But that's the thing. A lot of I've noticed a lot of people, they're brilliant. They know what to do, but they're waiting for the external factor of going, here's the right way to do it. When intrinsically, you know what to do, and you can just move on it. And that's what you did. A lot of people, that's the cinch point. It's 10 years later when they go, oh, I knew Netflix was going to be a thing. Well, that's all well and good, now, but when you
You
can
should have been
spot
thinking
those,
about that 10 years ago, right?
yeah, and like you're saying that the channeling, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the snake pattern, if you know it's going to keep doing this, then maybe set an alarm on your phone to go, hey, on Tuesday and Thursday I'm going to sell it, and on Wednesday and Friday I'm going to buy it, and 100 here, 100 here, 100 here. It's always fascinated me. I never dove into the stock market, but I did buy some mutual funds at 13 and 14, and same thing by 16. I was like, cool, I made $43. This is really not a a plan for wow, really? This is really not a plan for aggressive growth over the next 4, 5, 10 years. But
Right.
everything has its place. One of my favorite authors, Robert Kiyosaki, talks about you want a plan to be comfortable and a plan to be rich, and they're two different things. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think, on your way to becoming rich or wealthy, you have to stop at comfortable. You have to pass through comfortable anyway. So you might as well have a plan for comfortable. And comfortable allows you to take the calculated risk that allows you to get to rich and wealthy.
I like that. So let's dive into your training and your course a little bit more. All right, let's go through every single module, every single aspect, and I want even some of the bonus footage. Just kidding. Tell me about who you help and how you're really helping them.
All right. So let me share with you how I came to teach, if that's okay,
Yeah.
before I share with who I help. And so what happened was, after I started reading and learning those patterns, right, I took a 10,000. Well, let me back up. So I had $500 and I made 100. So me being my brain working the way it was, I was like, wait a minute, I had 500 and I made 100. I was like, if I had 1,000, I would have made 200. Then I was like, what if I would have had $10,000, right? And so my mind starts working like that, right? So how much could I have made had I had $10,000? And so then I started to say, how do I get $10,000? You know what I'm saying? Because then I would have made $1,000, and that would have been life changing for me as a 19, 20, 21-year old kid. And so when I started to think, how do I come up with $10,000? I'll never forget this. Me and my cousin, because he was investing in the stock market too, we were kind of going at this together. And I was like, well, why don't we go and ask everyone in our family to put in $1,000? If we can get 10 people to do it, we'll have 10,000. Of course, no one did it, right? These kids talking about they're going to be investors. And so I was like, well, how do I get $10,000? Because working wasn't going to get it, because, I didn't make that much at work. I'd have to basically not spend a dime for a couple of years, or at least all year, to save 10,000, just working weekends. And so what happened was I had a scholarship to school. I had a scholarship to Wayne State, and I actually applied for a student loan because I knew that they would double pay the account and then the loan would come back to me in the form of a refund. So I actually took the $10,000 student loan, even though I had a full ride, and I put it into the stock market, and then I grew it to a six-figure trading account. So I made about 100 and I think 110, $120,000. So I'm 21. I made over six figures, and I still haven't even graduated college. And I made that money not working. That's the key, right? And so I ended up going on to trade full time for about 2 to 3 years. Then I lost a lot of money, made it back, learned a lot about taxes. And so what happened was I started to tweet and share with people about my trades. I was blogging about it, and people were like, "How are you learning how to do this? Do you have a course?" So I was blogging about it, and people were making money off my trades, my tips, my tweets, my YouTube videos. And I was part of somebody else's paid program. So I had joined someone else's program, like just to see what they post about, like to get some other ideas, maybe stuff I didn't find myself. And I started realizing, like, I wonder if people would pay me for my knowledge. Like, I'm picking the same stocks or better stocks or different stocks. I'm right about my theory or thesis. And so that's what really led me to say, maybe I can teach this. And people were asking, do you have a course? How does this work? Stuff like that. And I was referring them to other people in different places. And I was like, wait a minute, I can actually teach this because I'm making money from it. They're making money from my free stuff. And then I started thinking, well, maybe that'll help me get even more money into the stock market. So that's what led me to start teaching and coaching, because I then became really passionate about why don't they teach this stuff in school and why aren't they sharing it? Because I was going to school for finance, and it was like what was taught in finance and what was actually happening in the real stock market was like two totally different things, right? It's like this company should be valued at this, but in the stock market, it's like, in real world, it's not valued at that, right? I'll take Tesla, for example, right? If you go by the finances that they teach you in school, Tesla should be bankrupt. But if you go by the stock market, it's a $200-300 stock. So why is it should be bankrupt, but in the stock market, they're paying $200 to $300 for that stock? And it's because the stock market sometimes value different things other than just the book value. They look towards the future and what it could be, and they price that in. So I just realized, like, there's some things that they're not teaching in school that I just became really passionate about. They definitely weren't teaching it at least in my community and to my people, or the people in general for that matter. So I said, why not me? So that's what led me to teach it. And then your other question was, who do I teach? Anyone who wants to take control of their financial future and believe that they can earn a return on their own investment. So let me be even more clear. We don't manage anyone's money. So people are like, can you do it for me? Can I give you $1,000? What can you do? We don't manage, my team, my company, we don't manage anyone's money. We just manage our own money and share with you what we're buying, what we're selling, why we're getting in, why we're getting out. And then we also built courses around it so you can learn how to do it. So anybody who wants to take a portion of their money, not all of their money, a portion, and believe that they can get a better return themselves.
That's fantastic. You're empowering people to take control of their finances. What would you say a typical starting investment would be, and what's like something reasonable you should think about? I mean, you were talking about you took $50, you took 500, you took 5,000. Where do you think most people are starting that, and how long do they expect to see a return? How long should they expect before they see a return?
So that's a great question. And there is no typical starting amount. And the reason I say that is because nobody's life is typical, right? I mean, you look at President Trump, his daddy started him off with $1 million. In his circle, $1 million was typical to start a business. That's not typical in my circle. In my circle, I started with 500. So
I would like to say something about that too. You had the vision, the insight, and you were willing to take that risk, because I know people that they have 10,000 to start, and there's also people that don't even want to try with 100.
Absolutely right.
So to your point of not typical, I was thinking somewhere between $1,000 and $10,000.
Yeah. And so what I like to say is it's less about a typical starting amount and it's more about realistic expectations. So my expectations with 500 was to make $50. That's a realistic, roughly expectation for what I was doing. What's unrealistic is when people come in here and be like, I got $500 and I want to quit my job in 6 months and be a full-time trader. It's like that that's possible, but that's a unrealistic amount to start with, not including the unrealistic amount of education you have to even make it happen. And so it's more about realistic and unrealistic expectations. So if you have $2,000, you may be able to make 500 to 1,000 a month. But if you have $2,000, you're like, I want to make six figures trading. It's probably going to be you're going to set yourself up for failure, right? Because basically you have to be right 100% of the times about 5 times in a row, right? So I mean, you're not accounting for a Trump China trade war. You're not accounting for interest rates. You're not accounting for any type of bubbles bursting, layoffs. You're not accounting for any other economic headwinds. And the market doesn't just work like that because you decided you want to make six figures from $2,000. Like, okay, I guess that's what we're going to do. It doesn't work like that. So you have to have a buffer and know that with $2,000, you might lose 200. So now you got 1,800. You might lose 300. Now you got 1,500. But then boom, you make 1,000. So now you're at 2,500. And I think that's the part that people miss out on. They don't look at the net game, right? And so this is a net positive game, right? It's like most people try to be right on 100% of their trades. It'll never happen. The game is about when you're wrong, you're being wrong small. And when you're right big, and you're right more often, right? And so when it comes to being realistic, the thing you need to think about is what can I realistically afford to lose that won't, get the lights cut off, won't get my car repoed or anything like that. And so whatever that amount is for you, that's going to be different depending on what class you grew up in and what type of job you make and how much expendable income you have. But I think the most important part is to get started wherever you're at. And that's where most people go wrong. They don't get started until they have some money. And I always say a fool and his money is one big party, right? It's like you're not ready for opportunity when it meets you. And so you need to have the knowledge so that way when the money comes, you're ready. What most people do is it's like hitting the lottery, right? They hit the lottery, they got all this money and they got zero knowledge. And so now they get swindled out of their money. They make bad decisions. It's because you were waiting to get the knowledge. And so now that the money found you, right, it found the fool, right? And so you want to get the knowledge up front, no matter how much money you have. That way, when you get your tax returns, when you run into a lawsuit, whatever it is, when you finally, it's your 40th birthday or you're graduating from college and people give you money and you finally scrape up 2, 3, 4, 5,000, you are prepared for the opportunity to invest it and flip it versus now what do I do with it? Let's go see if I can find a course to take. It's like you're kind of late to the game.
So it sounds to me like investing in the knowledge and learning how to properly do it is better than just focusing on the money and how much of a return you're going to get immediately.
Exactly. And that's the tough part for most people because I'll give you an example when you just said that. Some people will say, let's just say I got a course that's $1,000. Let's just say one of my courses is $1,000. You will have some people say, I have $2,000, but if I buy your course, I only have $1,000 to invest. And I'm thinking, if you don't get the knowledge, that 2,000 is going to go to zero, right? So they're worried about if I actually get the knowledge, only have 1,000. It's more like if you get the knowledge, what can you grow that 1,000 to versus coming in with 2,000 and no knowledge, right? And so the knowledge is the key because let me ask you this simple question, or let me ask the audience or anyone that's listening. When you think about it like this, there's a joke that, not a joke, but there was a story of a gentleman that was in a network marketing company. And you know how network marketing is like, oh, it's $500 a join. Or if you're in Mary Kay, just buy your products to join. It's $200 and we give you the makeup and stuff like that. Well, people always say, I don't have 200. I don't have 500 to join. I don't have this money to start. And this gentleman said, I'll tell you what, he pulled out his car keys. He said, I got a Lamborghini outside, Lamborghini Gallardo, $180,000 sports car, nothing wrong with it. He said, I'm selling it today for $499, right? It was like the price that it took to get involved with the network marketing company. He said, all the people who said they didn't have the money to get involved, if I told you all you have to do is come up with $499 to get this Lamborghini, and you need to have it by, I don't know, say it's 3:00. He's like, you need to have it by 6:00. He's like, how many of you, raise your hand, would find a way to come up with that money? Everybody in the room hands shot up, right? I would call my cousin, I would borrow off my credit cards, I would go to my parents and be like, you gotta loan me the money. Because why? Because you know that if you can get this Lamborghini for $500, you know the value of it. You could go resell it, you could put it on cars.com, you could go register it for Uber and Lyft and go pick some people up, and you know you would make some money with that Lamborghini. So was it the fact that you had $500 that made you money, or was it the fact that you had knowledge of what that car is worth and what you can do with it that was going to generate you some money? And so it's the knowledge of what a Lamborghini is, what it costs, where you can sell it at, Craigslist, eBay. You already got all this knowledge. I could sell it online. I could go put a sign on it. I could go Uber and Lyft. You have this knowledge. And so my point is, I would argue that the knowledge is more important than the actual car. Because if I told you I had a Lamborghini, you're like, what is a car? Right? Opportunity just totally went over your head. Whether it's $500 or not, you don't even know what a car is. You're like, why does it have, what are those black things? They're tires. What's tires? Right? And that's how most people are with the stock. It's like, you want to buy some stock? Like, what's a stock? What's a share? What's a ticker symbol, right? Like, they're just ill prepared for the opportunity when it finally meets them. So 100% it's the knowledge that if you get that, you'll find the money. You'll find a way to come up with the money, get in the game if you have knowledge how to flip it.
I would have to agree. Every training I've ever invested in, I've always betted on myself. I knew once I got the knowledge, I'm going to tear it up. Even if I didn't know, to the point of how do I get the money to get into the course when I was starting out, I knew that all I had to do was get in, and I'm going to move to the head of the class. I'm going to kill it. And so I'm going to spin this a little bit. I took one position, you took the other. Let's spin it 360. The knowledge or the money is more important. We agree it's the knowledge. And for the record, I never agreed that the money was more important. I was with you. Whatever. I'm spinning it. Where do you think confidence plays a role? Because I have seen this time and time again when people are asking me, about live streaming productions or a book, they want to join the book publishing course. And same thing, like you were saying with the network marketing. There's people that go, I want to do this, but they hesitate. And some of them have the money. I'll see them a week later on a vacation or something. They're traveling wherever. So it's not about the money, but why do you think they hesitate? Where do you think confidence plays a role? Why would they do that for, let's say, a concert ticket, a sport ticket, or the Lamborghini versus something for themselves?
So what I found throughout the years of being in business and risking money in the stock market, there's there's about three things that come into play, because I have a similar point of view to the question you're asking. Because I'll say, if I tell somebody, hey, come up with $2,000-$3,000 to get in the stock market, they can't do it. Let them go on a vacation. They all of a sudden come up with $2,000 to go to Mexico. Don't let somebody be getting married. They will go in debt, work extra hours. They will find out how to pay for this $20,000, $30,000 wedding that lasts for 6 hours, right? And they'll never see that money again. The flowers are going to die. The ice sculpture is going to melt. The food's going to be gone.
Pictures.
They got pictures, right? Right. But my point is, and the point in this conversation is that people will come up with the money for things that are a guaranteed result. They know for sure the wedding's going to happen. They know for sure, food's going to get served for the most part, right? And so a big part of it is a mindset thing, because we're willing to come up with it for a quote unquote guaranteed result. But when you come to the stock market, you come to live streaming, you come to publishing a book, how do I know if anyone's going to read my book? How do I know if it's going to be a bestseller? How do I know what if I mess up on live stream? What if, so now all the what ifs come into play, right? What if I get in the stock market and I lose it all? And so this is, when I think about mindset, I like to tell people we're already living failure. And they say, well, Jason Brown, what do you mean we're already living failure? Well, think about it. You are living the current life that you're living without writing a book, without live streaming, without getting involved with the stock market. So, would you agree that if you got involved in these things and it didn't work out, you would just do what you're doing right now? You're going to put on your shirt and tie, and you're going to go to work tomorrow, and you're going to get a check in 2 weeks, right? And you're going to hope you get a 2% raise at the end of the year, right? I mean, life is going to be pretty much exactly the way it is right now for you, right? And so once you realize that we're already living failure, it's more exciting to try something new, because what we don't know is how drastically we can change the course if there's something new that we try works. But we know what'll happen if it fails. I'm just going to go to work on Monday, right? I'm going to punch the clock, or I'm going to go watch Game of Thrones, and we'll go out on the weekends just like everybody else. So once you change your mindset and reprogram what you think failure is, you start to realize, it ain't that bad. But the upside is much more exciting than the downside, because the downside is you're just going to go to work tomorrow. And so I think that's why most people hesitate. Now, you said, where does confidence come in? Confidence comes in only by practicing and getting the experience, right? So, a pilot doesn't just become confident that he can fly. They put him in a simulator, right? A Army person doesn't become confident he can go to war, but they put him on the battlefield. They make him shoot a gun. They make him train outside in the rain. They try to simulate some of the things that they're going to come up against. You still can't simulate everything. There's still going to be what's called an X factor, right? But they try to simulate as much as possible, so that way when it's showtime, when it's go time, when it's wartime, when it's flight time, whatever it is, when it's live stream time, you've spoken in front of enough of your local chapter public speaking. You spoke in front of your wife with your kids sitting on the couch. You've already kind of experienced what it's like for someone to sit in the crowd and roll their eyes, right? Maybe you wrote a blog post and nobody liked it, or you had somebody online say, why are you writing? You've already experienced what it's like to have your first hater, your first critic. And so you realize it's not that bad. And so that's where your confidence comes in. Number one, by trying and getting the experience. And then number two, by changing your mindset and realizing you're already living failure, right? If you don't try, you're already failed. So you're living it, and you're probably doing okay right now, or you're failing and you hate where you're at. Think about the upside if you do try something different. Can't get any worse, really.
I love what you're saying, because I've told people that for years. Once you learn how to take the accomplishments, celebrate the wins, and use the failure as motivation, you literally get fueled from both ends of it. A lot. Sometimes people have a fear of success and they don't know how to celebrate that. And it's interesting. They have no problem failing over and over and over again, but when they do get the win, they self-sabotage. Now, there's the other people who go for the win, and they're so used to winning, they can't take a failure. But when you can get both of those working for you, it's just like, keep going, baby. I'm on fire.
It's the balanced life, right? You know that it's just part of the game. I heard this once on TV show Billions. It's like a stock market TV show or hedge fund show on Showtime, and they have like this psychiatrist. And one of the things she said when she talks to like the investors, because she knows it's about making sure their mind is right, and she says a good trader makes a good trade, right? Makes some money, makes $100,000. She's like, and that person feels good. That person's celebrating. That person's exciting. She said a great trader makes $100,000 and feels nothing, because they know that winning and losing is just part of the game. And that just blew my mind, right? It's like the person who can make $100,000 and they're just like, we had a good year. That's the same guy that can lose $100,000 and be like, comes with the territory, right? I learned a lot from that loss, right? So that person that can stay a little bit more neutral, don't get too high on the highs, don't get too low on the lows. It's part of the game.
That's good. That's good. I was actually just thinking, well, they need to celebrate a little bit more, but I'm also going, yeah, the failure does kind of suck, but the quicker you can recover from it, the better off you are.
Right? But just knowing that every hit is not going to be a home run. You think about riding a bike, right? There's no way that a person just got on the bike for the first time and didn't fall off. I mean, it just didn't happen. There's no way a baby ever stood up to walk and didn't fall back down to its knees, right? Can
But
you
they're
imagine that baby?
resilient. They pop back up real quick. They don't sit there for a week and go, huh, what did I do wrong? Maybe so and so was right, huh? Maybe I shouldn't do this.
I mean, could you imagine if a baby said, you know what? I tried that walking thing once. Fell down on my knees. I'm straight. Right?
I was
21 years old, still crawling.
I was just thinking, I was picturing, the baby actually doing that is having that kind of conversation with the, thousands of people they met in their life before they're walking. That would be interesting. I'm sure there's a movie on it. But let's talk about some more of your successes. How has podcasting helped you?
So for me, podcasting is just a way to share like we're doing right now and help people really change their mindset and how they think about this stuff, because that was one of the biggest things that helped me coming from a single family household. My mom raised me. My dad passed when I was 2. Growing up in Detroit, we grew up poor. And so I had to reprogram my mind that it was possible. Growing up here in Detroit, we're in the Metro Detroit area, you and I both. I had to reprogram my mind that there was something beyond working at Ford, GM, and Chrysler, right? And so I had to reprogram and think what's possible. And then being young and African American, it's like the only people I saw in the stock market were all older and white. And so I had to reprogram my mind. And so for me, the podcast is an outlet for people to just tune out everything except for my voice and really just go to that place and start to think for themselves and believe that they can do it. And, a lot of people email me or write in about the podcast. Our podcast is the Money Markets and Mindset podcast. They really write in and say like, wow, I didn't think about it like that before. Or before you explained it like that, I never thought about the stock market in that way. Or, wow, you opened up about a loss you had, or about taxes and how I had to pay taxes and how I had a tax lien. Or, I'm sharing some of the stuff that most people would shove in the closet and try to put on a facade like, oh, nothing ever happens to me. I don't lose any money in the stock market. I always pay my taxes. And I shared it. There was a time I didn't pay my taxes and they had a tax lien. There was a time I lost money, and sometimes I still lose money. But it's just an opportunity to be real and raw with people and remind them, or at least let them know that even once you start making money, the problems don't stop. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. He's a billionaire. He has the government coming after him, Russia trying to do collusion on his site, on his platform. You think, oh, I'll become a billionaire, I won't have any problems. No, you just have billion-dollar problems. And so I try to use the podcast for people to change their mindset about how they look at opportunity, as well as how they look at problems and failure, because you're going to have them for the rest of your life.
That's powerful. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find that right now? I don't want to wait to the end.
So on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, and we are on, what's the other one? I'm not sure, but Spotify. That's what it is. Oh. Spotify. So we're Spotify, we're on Stitcher, and we're on iTunes as the Money Markets and Mindset podcast. It used to be the Brown Report, but I changed it because I want to talk about money. I want to talk about the market, and I want to talk about mindset, right? So budgeting and finance, all of it. So the Money Markets and Mindset podcast.
Excellent. And I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes for this episode. So let me ask you about the live streaming, and you mentioned early on about YouTube. How has that helped you?
So, just like you, man, like people want to know that you're a real person, and it helps to just go live and talk to people. I don't try to hide behind a logo, right? I don't want them to see my face. Just put the logo on the screen, or only email me. Don't give them my phone number. So going live just allows us to reach our audience. It allows us to interact with them like in real time. And it just allows them to see that I'm just a real person trying to figure out life the best way I can for me and my family. And I'm sharing my discoveries, my journey with you along the way. And yes, I may be a little further than some people. But when you look at the big grand scheme of things, you look at the Warren Buffetts of the world, you look at the Mark Zuckerbergs, you look at the Mark Cubans, I might be further than you, but I'm way further from them than I am. I'm close. What I'm trying to say is, you could achieve what I've achieved, even though you may think I'm further than you, way faster than we both could probably achieve the status that they're at. And so, I just like to let people know that we're real people, and like you and I were broadcasting right from our home or your home studio, and that's what live allows us to do. It allows us to make mistakes, sneeze on camera, wipe our nose. We're real people.
Choke on water.
Choke on water, right? We're real people, man. And you know, you look all spiffy right now, which you look good, brother. But like one of the reasons that I usually just come on in like some type of sweatshirt or just a t-shirt with
Whoa. You got the branding down there on point.
yeah,
Look at that.
That's all I do is wear my own clothes now. But the reason I primarily only wear t-shirts and just come on in like a sweatsuit is because for me, when I was coming up, I thought the only way you can get involved with the stock market was to wear a suit and to go move to Wall Street in New York because that's all I saw. And so you're talking about going live. I like to go live and just show you can be you. You can be in a t-shirt and still be trading hundreds of $1,000s in the stock market, investing and working from home. It's not this thing where I got to quit my job. I got to buy a fancy new suit and get a new car so I look like I'm making some money. And now we got to move to New York. It has nothing to do with that. If you got a computer screen and a trading account and high-speed internet, you can get into the game. And so I like to keep it simple so that people don't look and think, I can never be that. I'm not as sharp as that guy. I'm not as smart as that guy. I just like I want people to look at me and be like, what? This guy made 100,000, 200, 300. We had a video where we did 380,000 in profit in the stock market in 6 months last year. I want people to look and be like, you kidding me? This guy in the t-shirt made 380 in like 6 months. That's how I want them to feel. Not be like, well, look at him. He's sharp. He's probably smart. Went to school for that. No, I'm just a regular guy and it's possible for you. So I think live streaming allows us to just, show the real, like you show behind the scenes, like, oh, I hit the wrong button. Or I'm trying to I just messed up or I'm choking on water, right? It shows people that this is real life and it's not always made up.
Yeah, some of my favorite videos were I would leave the office, go to the pool, just hang out, go in the hot tub. I'm like, I got something to say. And I've shot live streams from the hot tub, from the pool, from the boat, from wherever I'm at. I don't care. Freeway while driving, might not recommend that, but you don't need everything that I have set up. This is for a completely different purpose and, whole other thing. And there's sometimes I'm like, I really wish I didn't have to put all these clothes on just to say what I want to say because it's a lot more work. It's really easy. And I'll tell you what, I'm so thankful because the 3,000 literally that I did to get to this point, no one was ever going, well, you're not in a suit and tie. I'm not going to listen to you, this, that, the other thing. So appreciate for what you're sharing in the behind the scenes. It sounds like you got a lot of good information you could put into a book.
I know we was just talking
See
about
how I worked that one in there?
I should write a book sometime soon. And, I think a book is definitely in my future. It's just right now I'm so focused on our members, our membership and growing that and making sure they got the courses and the teachings that they need. And I think too in life, sometimes you have to realize what's an opportunity right now and what's an opportunity for later so that you don't get distracted. And I think for me, it's more like it's in the cards. It's just not in the cards for right now,
Yeah, you're doing great with what you're doing. When you do down the road, let me know. I'll just update the show notes page.
For sure.
I want to read it. That's why I've been teasing you with it for the last couple of years. But, you're doing a fantastic job. It's great to have you here. I got one more question for you before the imperfect action round and the rapid fire questions. So I've been calling this the expert authority roller coaster. I've got stuff from real softball questions that are easy, like what's your favorite celebrity, to if you could change the world, what is one thing you would do and who would you want it to affect? Where are you feeling right now?
I mean, I'm ready for whatever you want to throw at me. I didn't even read like the questions you could ask for this. I like to go off the cuff, talk from the heart. I feel like if you know your stuff, it's not a whole lot you need to get prepared for, because again, we're just talking about our real life. So
I love that because there's been some people that, I like to keep everyone prepared and give them a first class experience onboarding and, even before we hit the camera, because I personally believe, and this is a business tip, And a personal tip: if you're entertaining people personally, the event doesn't start when they show up. It starts when you invite them. And for business, if you're going to have a show or you're onboarding a client or anything, it starts when you ask them also. So I have everything laid out, as you could see. And if you want it, it's there. I'm not trying to hide anything or what's it called? Do a sandbag interview or whatever that is. I think that's just stupid and disrespectful. But at the same point, there's been some people who don't look at the questions, and there's other people who they came more prepared than me. Right before we go on camera, they got their red pen. They're like, "Okay, I've researched this. What is this number 7 here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I made that like 6 months ago. Like, what is it? What's the question?" So I'm gonna give you a good one. All right,
Sure.
you're president. What would you do to impact the world for the next 10 years?
Man, if I'm president, what would I do to impact the world for the next 10 years? I would probably say my core competency is financial literacy. And so I think a lot of problems start with money, whether and typically is lack thereof, right? If you think about most of the crimes that's committed, you don't typically commit the crime because you have money, right? You committed it because you didn't have money. You couldn't go to that school because you didn't have money, and thus you grew up around these type of people. Or you couldn't, the parents couldn't afford a babysitter, couldn't afford a car to get you to work, so you lost your job. If you think about a lot of the issues, it's typically surrounded by money, and not just making money, but making better decisions with it, understanding taxes, understanding budgeting. And so I would be some type of champion for some type of financial literacy program rolling out through, K through 8, I mean K through 12, before you even get to college, before you even get your first job. I think we teach kids everything but about money, right? We want to teach them how to draw. We want to teach them how to play in gym. And I think all that stuff's important too, exercise, et cetera. But we don't prepare them for, that's like a small portion of their life, but the rest of their life, they're going to be dealing with money. And it's like, we never talk about it. We
Yeah, I
never
don't
talk
know
about
too many people that
it.
are like, "Honey, you left the millions in the family room. I said put them in the garage."
Right. Right. So I would be a champion for some type of financial literacy program from every neighborhood to every community, every school, public, charter, private. If I can influence private, um, I would be a champion for financial literacy. I think a big portion of it starts there. I know in politics and government, you can't talk much about faith or religion or different things like that. But the one thing that's neutral is like finances, money, taxes, credit, interest rates. And so I think that's something that's universal to every American and even non-American citizen, that as a president, if I was president, I could be a champion for.
Very good. I think that's important too. I think I agree 100%. There are so many. We don't teach financial literacy like ever. There
No.
might be a money class, there might be an entrepreneur class, but what are all the card companies doing for 14, 15, 16? I even heard of some 11 and 12-year-olds getting solicited for, "Oh, you can get a credit card now."
Yeah. Or they're telling the parents, just co-sign, put your kid on there. And, as long as you co-sign, they can be on your account. Right. But people don't understand credit, interest rates. People don't understand basic stuff like insurance, right? Are they underinsured, overinsured? The deductible. Um, do we go with the $500 deductible or the $1,000 deductible? Everybody picks 500 because it's the lowest, but sometimes that's the worst one to get, right? You do the math. Maybe you save $25 a month by going with the $1,000 deductible. So you figure once a year you save $250. So in 2 years you save $500. You ask a person when's the last time they got in an accident? They're like 10 years ago,
Yeah, unless
right?
you're extremely accident prone, you're probably not
Yeah,
even going to be claiming on it anyway.
right. So you just basically threw away $2,500, right? That you could have been saving in your pocket, right? Or you could have been investing.
Maybe in the
So
stock market.
yeah. So I mean, just people aren't really taught to make just simple math calculations like that, like risk versus reward. What's the risk? When's the last time that actually happened to me? Right. And so even if you go 12 months or 24 months without an accident, you've already saved the extra $500 that you would have paid to have $1,000 deductible. So stuff like that is just not taught. People just don't even think about it. It's just like, I'm just going with the cheaper one, you know? And that same mentality shows up when they go to buy a car, right? A car dealer says, do you want to put 2,000 down and have a $350 note a month, or no money down and $400 note a month, right? And they're like, no money down, it's only extra 150. Yet the extra 150 actually they end up paying 4 or 5,000 more for the car than had they just put
overall long term.
Yeah, long term versus had they just put 2,000 down. But they just heard no money down, right? And the payments aren't that much higher, right? But I don't want to say you just got swindled, but just basic math. You didn't do the math, right? So
It's not illegal till it goes over 24% interest. It's only 23.99, so it's legit.
Exactly, right? And
Yeah, I
so
get you. One of my favorite things, I got it on the desk right here. I've had it for a while. It's just a simple calculator. I keep, pen, paper, and calculator. It's like simple math. All you're trying to do is beat the spread. It doesn't need to be rocket science.
that's it. But people aren't really taught that basic level of financial literacy. And so that's what
Excellent.
I'd be a champion for.
Well, we're going to cut to the sponsor, come back for the imperfect action round. All right, we're back for the imperfect action round. Jason, are you ready to take imperfect action?
Let's do it.
First question: what is the fastest path to the cash?
The fastest path to the cash, I would say, is just a job, first of all. So you might be thinking, like, well, this is the stock market guy telling me get a job. And the answer is yes. That's one thing that you can for sure do in exchange hours for dollars, right? And then it's what you do after you get that money that can take you to wealth, whether that's getting involved with the stock market, whether that's starting your own business. So I think, one of the fastest things you could do is just work hard at your job and move up and increase your salary, increase your hourly rate, whatever that is. But at the same time, don't increase your expenses. And now you get you have some disposable income. And the reason I go that route first is because if you just jump straight into investing, it's like the fastest way to get money is to invest. Well, we don't control the stock market. I don't control if that money's going to mature in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Some trades that we do take 6 months, right? And so we don't have control over that. So while we're waiting for that to mature, you could be putting in hours on your job or somewhere else where you can get a guaranteed return. And then they say work full time, part time on your dream. While you're working full time on your job, work part time on your dream, right? And so let that money work for you part time without you physically working for it in the stock market or real estate or some other passive vehicle. And then you continue doing what you're doing full time until that part time money eventually dwarfs your full time money that you make on your job.
Excellent. Second question: what is the biggest problem you see your prospects making, and what's the fastest way they can fix it?
The biggest mistakes that I see people, my prospects or potential customers making is what we talked about earlier. Well, there's two, but you said the biggest. I would say the biggest is they still have that gambler's mentality. They'd rather gamble the $2,000 than to buy a $500 or $1,000 course. They'd rather take their chance putting it all on black or in the stock market term. I'm just going to buy some Apple stock tomorrow because I heard a new iPhone's coming out, right? They'd rather gamble the 2,000 versus take 1,000 or 500 and get some knowledge. And so I think that's the biggest mistake that most people getting in the stock market make is they come in with the gambler's mentality, and it's hard to break, right? They're brought up playing the lottery. They're brought up going to the casino, right? So everything up to this point has been luck or chance, right? Trying to get a big return for doing nothing and not even have to learn but how to do anything but pick some random numbers. And so just breaking that mentality is probably the hardest and biggest mistake I see most people come into the industry with.
Excellent. 3. What is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
I think the best way to maximize lifetime value of a customer is to make sure you're continuously giving value, and then you have a value added ladder for the different stages that your customer may go through, right? Because at some point, whatever you offered 6, 12, 24 months ago, once your customer masters that, they're like, well, what's next? So you always have to be growing yourself and kind of staying one step ahead. And then there's always something that they can learn from you, right? I mean, you don't switch mentors until you feel like you've learned everything you can from a guy or a girl. And so if your mentor, though, is constantly up leveling and getting better, it's like, oh, I'm sticking with this person because they're still doing stuff that I see myself doing in the future. They're still blazing new paths and knocking down new doors and turning around and teaching me. So you want to increase your lifetime value of a customer, make sure you are a lifetime learner.
Love that. Knowledge really is power once it's put into action.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, real quick, sometimes people, when they, like in our business, people be like, oh, you're going to teach a course or you're going to show them what you're buying. And as soon as they take that course, they're going to leave you or they're going to quit. It's like that course is such a small piece of what I know and what I continue to learn and how I take my money and I look into real estate or I look into restaurants. I look into other opportunities that I can turn around and teach. It's like most people are like, I don't want to teach that because if they learn it and they're going to, become my competition or something. It's like, you're putting a cap on how much you know, or more importantly, you're putting a cap on how much additional stuff you can learn. And you're just stopping at that one course, or you're protecting your content so tight. Like that's the only value you bring to the table, And so
It's
I
kind
think
of
we
a
got,
victim mentality because there's no way they're going to trounce your 20 years of experience and thousands of stories in every single experience that puts context around every situation. Like you were saying with the snake pattern. Someone could go, "Oh, I believe that little tip you shared in the beginning, people could make money with." But
uh,
do you know the 21 different ways and where it's good and where it's bad and what to do, and if it does this, if it goes left, right, up, down, how to apply it?
there's always something else to teach. There's always another level.
Yeah, one of my favorite games by Kiyosaki is Cash Flow 101, the board game. And
Mm-hmm.
the original goal was just to be able to beat the thing. And then it was, how quick can I do it? And then it was, how can I do that? But you watch your patterns and it's, well, did you do real estate to do it? Did you do it with stocks the whole way? Was it with businesses? When you can get to a point where you're doing it with every single thing on every turn quickly, that's a lot different than you got through it. It might have taken you 7 hours to get through it. That's a lot different than 53 minutes, 3 different ways, and every turn you're turning something into gold.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then sometimes you get the do that card, right? And you got to figure out how to climb out of the rat race, which is, that's what it's called, rat race.
Absolutely. Fun time. All right. So, one more thing for you. What is the book that's made the biggest difference for you in your business?
If I had to pick one right off the top of my head, I'm gonna go with Think and Grow Rich. I'm a big mindset person, and once I read Think and Grow Rich, it just opened up my way of thinking and what I believe is possible for me. When you read the stories about Henry Ford, you read the stories about just all the greats that are in the book. You realize the one thing that these people had was a strong mindset. That they were going to be successful, that they were going to figure out their industry. So um, that would be it. Think and Grow Rich.
Excellent. Well, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah. So the best place to find me is the main website, my home on the internet, which is thebrownreport.com. They can find it at thebrownreport.com, or they can type in brownreport.com. We own both domains. On Instagram, I'm at Brown Report. So the at symbol, Brown Report. On YouTube, I'm the Brown Report. And on Facebook, I'm the Brown Report. So if they look up the Brown Report on any of those platforms or just type in the brownreport.com, they'll come to our home on the web.
Keeping it simple. Love that. Got your branding on point.
That's it, man. And then there's the Money Markets and Mindset podcast.
All right, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure. Expert Authority World, I hope you got as much out of this as I did. I was taking notes, and I actually got pretty excited about that snake pattern you were talking about in the beginning, and I'm curious what else is in the course. But thank you so much for sharing with us. We have another great show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's mine. All right, so we're still live, and we're going to check a couple of things. I'm going to jump on the... Let's see. I don't think I tagged you. We got a lot of people that were watching. Let's see. If you have a question, I talked to Jason before, and we got a couple more minutes. We're not going to stick around too long, but if you have anything right now, I want some of that water. Wow. I don't know about you, but my lights are getting a little bit warm.
I had to drink something real quick.
I got mine right here. For anyone who's still left watching, if you got a question for Jason, ask him now. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah. And if for some reason you're watching the replay and you got a question, be sure to type it below and Mario will tag me and I'll come in and make sure, we both or I respond to it.
So I'm going to do something I haven't done before because I've done 70 plus of these on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Excited about that. I think this puppy's streaming to YouTube too, so I'm going to see if anything's happening over there. I assume it is. We'll find out in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, YouTube usually has its own chat box area as well.
2 live streams. There's 2 of them going on YouTube. Huh. All right. Cool.
That box area as well.
2 live streams. It's working. 2 of them going. Nice. Well, someone give me a cookie because I got this thing streaming in a bunch of different places and it's all working. So excited about that. I'm just trying to remember them because the other times I did this, it was like I didn't see I stayed on after, and then it wasn't till I closed it when I realized there was 3 more destinations and I didn't get to those. So shouldn't this be... Oh, it doesn't notify me on here because I looped it through the other thing. Okay, well, whatever.
Technology, man.
There's a lot of people. I'm just trying to remember them because the other time I didn't see. I'm going to tell people next time to ask cues early on. There's a lot of people with thumbs up and stuff like that, but I'm not seeing any cues right now, so
no worries.
We're good there. But I do appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. You got me. I was looking into stocks and I bought some mutual funds. I started my first company at 12 and I took the lawn cutting and that money and I did buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds and all that stuff at 12, 13, 14, 15 and then kind of got out of all of it. Like I was saying beforehand when I bought my car because I was like, it's been 2-3 years and to your point, I can make more money in a few hours than in the last year doing this. So wish I had your course back then, but appreciate you for sharing what you did and congrats on all your continued success.
Thanks, man. And it's always a work in progress. We're always, striving to be better live streamers, better book writers, better stock and options trader. I always work hard to be a better coach. And so, we're young and we need to take advantage of this season of life that we're in, that we got the energy to try this live streaming stuff and get online and trade stocks and take risk. And there's never been a better time to go after your dreams than right now with the power of the internet. In the stock market, there's no racism, no sexism, no ageism. None of that matters. So there's just never been a better time than right now. We don't have to go get a broker. We don't have to be part of the good old boys club to get in the stock market. You're live streaming your own show right now. You don't have to go to the cable news network and say, hey, I was thinking about starting my own show. Click a button, you're live. Right. And so think about how powerful the time we're living in right now. So I would just encourage anybody who's still sticking around listening or watching the replay that this is your season, no matter how far behind you think you are. I'm telling you, there's never been a better time than right now.
Wow. appreciate that, and I agree. I've been telling people, I go, the networks are going to be coming to me asking how to do this, because I think it's hilarious now. Even the news outlets, the TV stations, all of them, they're like, breaking news. Guess what? We're going to be airing at 6 o'clock. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on 6 o'clock? And it's like, Britney Spears updated her Instagram at 2 o'clock. And it's like, I knew that 3 hours, 59 minutes ago.
And how
There's
about
nothing left. We are the news now. They can't get
we
the
are?
stories fast enough.
They're getting their news from us, and then they want to try to come on Facebook and live stream what they found, right? But the people going through it already whipped out their phone and went live and said, this house is on fire, there's a shooting down here, the police are just now getting here. People are able to become the newscasters themselves just by whipping out their cell phone. I mean, what a time we live in.
Yeah, I've actually, some of my private clients, I've actually done productions for large companies, and they have all, I mean, you look at them and you're like, wow, they got all this stuff, but they don't get the Facebook, the YouTube, how you go live, how you do a premiere versus streaming it here versus doing it here, how to port it over to Instagram or LinkedIn with the square videos for it to make sense. It's like, we got our message, but I mean, there's so many technical nuances with all of it that it is for sure an exciting time. So thank you again, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure. Congrats on your continued success, and I can't wait to talk with you further.
For sure. Thanks, Mario.
We'll see you next time.